Hello, Dr. Landry. This is my instructional video for my 3-day instruction I would do in my class from 3rd grade math. I'm on Zoom because I thought that it would be easy for me, you can see my face when I show you an example of my board game, and then also I can show you my PowerPoint. So let's start with share screen, and I can show you my PowerPoint. Share. Let's make me bigger though. There you go. That way you can see this when I have to do this. Okay, day 1 of instruction. So for my day 1 of instruction, I would start off with doing grouping and correspondence. With grouping and correspondence, I would do grouping as day 1 of instruction because it is visual and it breaks down what they are doing with multiplication and how it works in a non-threatening way because it's going to be a game. To introduce this topic to a class, I would first introduce new vocabulary to use and hand out sentence stems to each group. The sentence stems would be a tool to support ELL students and at least any other students who don't know the vocabulary as well. A sentence stem like this, and each group would have them so they could use them to talk, prompts to talk about how to talk about the math that they're doing. After I hand out the sentence stems, I would demonstrate the grouping game. This grouping game would illustrate correspondence and grouping, and that would take about 10 to 15 minutes. Let me show the game I have in mind. I've used this in my class before, and that's why I have those materials. The grouping game is called a fishbowl game, and how it starts is you have fish bowls. Let me expand me. You have fish bowls. You have fish bowls, and then you have 2 sets of cards, blue ones that say fish bowls on them, and white ones that say fish. And you could do this with manipulatives like this, or you could even do goldfish, I think would be really cool. That's probably what I would do. Don't have goldfish right now. And so what they would do, they would have decks of 1 through 9, and each student would take a turn flipping a card. So I flip my card, and it's 2 fish bowls. So I would take the fish bowls that we have for each group right here and put them in front of me with my partner right here. See, we have 2 fish bowls. And then the other student will pull out their card, and if they have 3 fish. So when they take the 3 fish, and they're over here, my fish are here, and they would put them here together. 1, oh, it's stuck to me, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then they would count them all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 6 fish. So with that, and that is what they would do with the game. And then we play it for like 10 to 15 minutes, not too long, but long enough. And then after, I would transition them to a new step. So I would use the I do, we do, you do model to make the connection that the game they just played is a form of math multiplication. And like this, so I would show them the game again and say, okay, let's break it down. So how many fish bowls do we have? They would say 2, and I would say, good, we have 2. And then I would say, how many fish did we have? And we would count 1, 2, 3. And I'd be like, good, we have times 3 fish. So all together, how many fish did we have? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we would make it a 6. And that's how I would transition the equation to them so that they understand this is a form of multiplication that they can do for grouping. Then I would give them the opportunity to replay the game again, but also writing down their equations. And then after, I would bring them back again, and give them a handout worksheet and have them demonstrate to me the problem, not with the fish bowls, but with just circles and dots on their paper. And then that paper, that worksheet that they do, and they would do it on their own, would be their extra exit ticket to see if they understood the concept. And that is my grouping correspondence, my instruction plan for day 1. But the strategies that relate to that instruction plan I have supported. So a strategy for my advanced learners would be balancing rigor and joy in learning. I got this off page 3 in the book. Playing a game and making it fun while also introducing a new concept and later transitioning to a more thorough explanation exhibits this strategy. So thus working on their own, doing it as a game. So it's still fun, but then also they have substance to what they had learned. A strategy for my struggling learners is to be ready to break set. I got this in page 26. And with this strategy, we introduce the concept with a game that is fun, non-threatening, and will make them nervous. Then we move on to connecting it to the equation. And then they work with a peer again, and then they work on their own. By scaffolding this lesson, it eases the fact that they are learning a new concept and they don't get anxious. A strategy for my ELL learners is giving them the opportunity to talk with their peers. With this instruction, it provides the ELL learner a chance to talk with their peers through almost the whole class period, as well as authoring a sentence stems to use as a tool for talking if they need that extra support. A strategy for my middle learners is to teach productive habits of mind and work. In this instruction, it encourages them to work with a peer and to also use feedback in this instruction. It encourages them to work with a peer and to also use feedback with a new concept. By playing the game together, while it being a fun lesson, it encourages them to also associate learning to fun. All right, that is my day 1 instruction. For day 2 instruction, it's a little unconventional, but please bear with me. For my day 2, I would introduce arrays for my introduction. I would first review what we had done the previous day, and I would have the students turn and talk to each other and give them prompts to talk about what they learned about multiplication groups. I would introduce arrays, and to make this concept engaging and relevant to all learners, and so that they don't get confused by rows and columns, I would introduce it as like baking cookies. And so I know it's kind of ambitious, but I would try to make no-bake cookie dough and have it prepared for them, and then I'll give them 10 sheets to make their own cookies in groups, in pairs. And then I would have them make their groupies like 4 times 3, do that simple multiplication, and introducing arrays in that kind of way. And I would explain to them that they just did it, and after I would explain to them that they just did an array for multiplication, and I would show them, the same way like I did the previous day on the board, and then I would transition them into doing something more tangible with numbers. So I would have them separate into two pairs again, give them a deck of a set of 1 through 9 deck cards, different colors. Each student would pull their one, another student would pull another card, and then together they would combine their array on graph paper and color it in. And then they would color it in on graph paper. This would take, I would say, ideally about 10 minutes. And after, I would bring the group together and I would have students to think, pair, share about what they just did and how it's similar to grouping. And then I would have them write 4 times 3 2 ways on a note card on their own. And then they would give... sorry. And then I would give 2 ways on a note card, and then I would have them give it to me as their exit ticket to show their understanding. And then we would eat the cookies. And I think that would be a fun way introducing this concept to them and also not overwhelm them because they're also doing something fun and tangible to it. For the strategy for this instruction, once again, a strategy used for the advanced learners, I know it's not going to repeat, but it does apply to this, is balance rigor and joy in learning. So this is exhibited in making the cookies and playing the card flip activity. Making the cookies is fun and tangible, and they would do it at home. And then the card flip activity and having them write their 2 ways of equations at the end of the lesson provides that rigor as well. For my struggling learners, a strategy used instruction is paying attention to relevance. For them, this is probably significantly relevant to them because it's baking. Most people at home, despite different culture, bake and bake cookies in some way and need to use cookie sheets. And I think connecting baking to math is a good combination and making it relevant to them and like making them enjoy it, helping them enjoy it. For my ELL learners, it consistently gives them the opportunity to talk in class with their peers about things that are relevant to them. And then for my middle learners, a strategy used in this instruction is teaching them to be aspirational. While some of my middle learners might not be very good academically, but they might be good at baking, and this gives them the opportunity to explore that if they don't have a chance to do that at home, and it helps them to do something that's hands-on. And that is my strategies for instruction 2. Let's move on to instruction 3. Day 3 of instruction, I would combine the 2 strategies I have previously taught them by doing a consensus board. For the 3rd and final day of instruction, I review the exit tickets over the previous days and group my students based on need of one another. Preferably, ideally, I would like to group groups of 4 consisting of 4 diverse learners. Of course, that's not always the case in a normal classroom, but for this, let's say it is. For this day, I would be a consensus table, and a consensus table is set up like this. On each table of my groups, there's butcher paper. In the middle of the butcher paper is a word problem. In this case, I would make a word problem, a story problem. And each student would have a job that they can do that helps with the consensus table. For example, the jobs would consist of a reader of the problem story, a timer for how long it takes them, and for the consensus, a fetcher of manipulatives and supplies, so like getting manipulatives for like this, if one student needs to do a raise, and then a presenter after they make up their consensus. Let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. So right here, in the middle, this would be on a desk, and in the middle it says Sam had cookies. He gave 4 cookies to 3 of his friends. How many cookies did Sam have? And ideally, I would have an advanced learner, an ELL learner, a struggling learner, and a middle learner to all help each other and to all interact with each other to make it unified, I guess you could say. For my instruction, I would give them a story problem. And with that knowledge that my students already know what a story problem is, they are in 3rd grade, and I would hope that they would know. And for this context, first, the reader of the group would read the story problem, the timer would be set, and then all 4 students would do their problem separately at their own spot. Then, after the timer, then they will discuss and talk about the answers that they got. If they have different answers, then ideally they must decide on who has the correct answer and explain and come to the same consensus. After every groups are done, which I would give them flexible time, there would be a presenter that explains their consensus, and at the end of the lesson, the butcher paper would be the exit ticket, so I can really understand that my students understand the instruction I've been teaching them for the past 3 days. So, the strategies that support my consensus table is a strategy for advanced learners in this instruction is challenged advanced students to challenge themselves. In this instruction, I would designate the advanced learners to be the readers for the group and to also assist and work together with their peers on the problem. This teaches them to practice with other learners who are lower than them and be positive. A strategy I've used for struggling learners in this instruction is use many avenues in learning. With this consensus table, it gives the student an opportunity to work by themselves and with their peers. While many different students need that, they either need to work on their own or have someone work along with them. A strategy for my ELL learners for this instruction would be to build bridges between students' first language and English. With the consensus tables, takes up majority of the class time, and they would have to talk and work with each other and interact with each other and build a good connection with one another through doing this activity. They will talk with diverse peers, and they will discuss what they are learning, and they will work together and meet the end goal, which is really cool for them. And then lastly, a strategy for my middle learners for this instruction is to teach up and understand that every human being needs to feel unique. With these two strategies, the consensus table gives the middle learner an opportunity to talk about their thoughts of how they got the problem, how they got the answer, not problem, as well for making them unique, ideally making the middle student the presenter lets them be seen by their peers and their teacher to give them confidence that they need. That is what I would do for this third grade instruction of teaching a single digit multiplication. Thank you for your time. I really like this class. Okay.